Hello, and thank you for joining me again. I'm going to try real hard to be more consistent because I have really missed praying with you guys. I have. So I'm going to start with this prayer from Bahá'u'lláh. Suffer me not, O God, my God, to be kept back from the heaven of thy bounties and the day star of thy favors. I beseech thee by that word, through which thou hast subdued all things, visible and invisible, to assist me, and to assist thy chosen ones to accomplish that which shall exalt thy cause amidst thy servants and throughout thy regions. Do thou ordain for me then every good thing which thou hast sent down in thy book. Verily, thou art the Almighty, the ever-forgiving, the most generous. That's from the Baha'i prayer book. It's called Baha'i Prayers. This next one is from a book that Baha'u'lláh wrote, which is a very long letter called Epistle to the Son of the Wolf. And this is a favorite prayer of mine. O God, my God, debar not thy servants from turning their faces towards the light of certitude that hath dawned above the horizon of thy will. And suffer them not to be deprived, O my God, of the oceans of thy signs. They, O my Lord, are thy servants in thy cities, and thy slaves in thy lands. If thou hast not mercy upon them, who then will show them mercy? Take thou, O my God, the hands of such as have been drowned in the sea of idle fancies, and deliver them by thy power and thy sovereignty. Save them then with the arms of thy might. Powerful art thou to do what thou willest, and in thy right hand are the reins of all that is in the heavens and all that is on earth. Here's another, this is a quote from Baha'u'lláh. This is pretty interesting. This one that I'm about to read right now, it's about liberty, what we people call liberty. Consider the pettiness of men's minds. They ask for that which injureth them, and cast away the thing that profiteth them. They are indeed of those that are far astray. We find some men desiring liberty and priding themselves therein. Such men are in the depths of ignorance. Know ye that the embodiment of liberty and its symbol is the animal. That which beseemeth man is submission unto such restraints as will protect him from his own ignorance and guard him against the harm of the mischief maker. Liberty causeth man to overstep the bounds of propriety and to infringe on the dignity of his station. It debaseth him to the level of extreme depravity and wickedness. So I want to go back, there's a couple more paragraphs, but I want to go back and talk about what these mean, because the words may be puzzling to some. He says, consider the pettiness of men's minds. They ask for that which injureth them, and cast away the thing that profiteth them. They are indeed of those that are far astray. So he's saying, men are so foolish. We human beings are so foolish. We ask for the things that hurt us, and we throw away the things that help us. We're lost. And he says that liberty in this sense is really symbolized by animals. That we, human beings, it's good for us to submit ourselves to restraints, because we don't know what it is we don't know. So by submitting ourselves to the restraints of the manifestations of God, the divine teachers that come to the world for our benefit, that protects us. That protects us from engaging in things that are going to harm us if we follow the laws of these divine teachers. And it will help protect us from those who would do us harm, because we'll be harder to exploit. We'll be harder to manipulate if we're following the laws of God. It says, liberty causeth man to overstep the bounds of propriety and to infringe on the dignity of his station. That's a very interesting sentence, to infringe on the dignity of his station. So as human beings, we are called to a certain level. And we need to honor ourselves because we are called to that level. Too much freedom it can be disrespectful to our own selves, our own inner purpose for living and nobility. Too much freedom debases us to the level of extreme depravity and wickedness. We have to choose. We, as opposed to the animals, have the capacity to choose between right and wrong. We need to use that to choose what's good. Then he goes on to say, regard men as a flock of sheep that need a shepherd for their protection. This verily is the truth, the certain truth. We approve of liberty in certain circumstances and refuse to sanction it in others. We verily are the all-knowing. So he's saying, I often think of children. Children need parents to protect them. And when we grow up, we need the laws of God to protect us. And our parents, in a sense, they train us, if they're good parents, so that when we grow up and become mature, we can recognize God as our true parent and obey his laws. Then he goes on to really get down to it. He says, true liberty consisteth in man's submission unto my commandments, little as ye know it. Were men to observe that which we have sent down unto them from the heaven of revelation, they would of a certainty attain unto perfect liberty. Happy is the man that hath apprehended the purpose of God, in whatever he hath revealed from the heaven of his will, that pervadeth all things. Say true liberty, say the liberty that profiteth you, is to be found nowhere except in complete servitude unto God the eternal truth. Whoso hath tasted of its sweetness will refuse to barter it for all the dominion of earth and heaven. So what Baha'u'lláh is saying here is that if we really want to find true freedom, the freedom of love, the freedom of the spirit, the freedom of truth, we need to submit ourselves to the laws of God which have been revealed in the age in which we live. And those are the laws of the most recent messenger of God, who was Bahá'u'lláh. So in every age, there's a divine messenger that appears. In the age of Christianity, it was Jesus. In the age of Islam, it was Muhammad. And in this age, it's Baha'u'lláh. In the age of Buddha, it was Buddha. But each time that one of these messengers appears, whether to indigenous people or from the Abrahamic tradition or from the Eastern, Far Eastern divine teachers, that person brings the law of God for the age, for that age. And in this age, it's Baha'u'lláh has brought these laws. So he's saying that if we would only obey his laws, we would attain to perfect liberty. And when we recognize the messenger of God for the day in which we live, and we understand that everything that he says is truth, we can begin to understand what he says. Because instead of weighing what he says against our own deficient judgment, we try to understand it from the point of view of, this is the truth. Now what does it mean? And I've done that a lot over the last 40 years, and it's been the source of my education. Say, the liberty that profiteth you is to be found nowhere except in complete servitude unto God, the eternal truth. Whoso hath tasted of its sweetness will refuse to barter it for all the dominion of earth and heaven. Excuse me for a minute while I mark my place. Hopefully I'll be able to find what I need to do that. All right, let's read more prayers. It's very nice to see you all. Praise be unto thee, O my God. I am one of thy servants who hath believed on thee and on thy signs. Thou seest how I have set myself towards the door of thy mercy, and turned my face in the direction of thy loving kindness. I beseech thee by thy most excellent titles and thy most exalted attributes to open to my face the portals of thy bestowals. Aid me then to do that which is good, O thou who art the possessor of all names and attributes. I am poor, O my Lord, and thou art the rich. I have set my face towards thee and detached myself from all but thee. Deprive me not, I implore thee, of the breezes of thy tender mercy, and withhold not from me what thou didst ordain for the chosen among thy servants. Remove the veil from mine eyes, O my Lord, that I may recognize what thou hast desired for thy creatures, and discover in all the manifestations of thy handiwork the revelations of thine almighty power. Enrapture my soul, O my Lord, with thy most mighty signs, and draw me out of the depths of my corrupt and evil desires. Write down then for me the good of this world and of the world to come. Potent art thou to do what pleaseth thee. No God is there but thee, the all-glorious, whose help is sought by all men. I yield thee thanks, O my Lord, that thou hast wakened me from my sleep, and stirred me up, and created in me the desire to perceive what most of thy servants have failed to apprehend. Make me able, therefore, O my Lord, to behold for love of thee, and for the sake of thy pleasure, whatsoever thou hast desired. Thou art he to the power of whose might and sovereignty all things testify. There is none other God but thee, the Almighty, the Beneficent. Bahá'u'lláh. And here's one by the Bab. O Lord, unto thee I repair for refuge, and toward all thy signs I set my heart. O Lord, whether traveling or at home, and in my occupation or in my work, I place my whole trust in thee. Grant me then thy sufficing help, so as to make me independent of all things, O thou who art unsurpassed in thy mercy. Bestow upon me my portion, O Lord, as thou pleasest, and cause me to be satisfied with whatsoever thou hast ordained for me. Thine is the absolute authority to command. I think I'll recite the prayer for the northeastern states. O thou kind Lord, lowly and tearful, I raise my suppliant hands to thee and cover my face in the dust of that threshold of thine. Exalted above the knowledge of the learned and the praise of all that glorify thee. Graciously look upon thy servant, humble and lowly, at thy door, with the glances of the eye of thy mercy, and immerse him in the ocean of thine eternal grace. Lord, he is a poor and lowly servant of thine, enthralled and imploring thee, captive in thy hand, praying fervently to thee, trusting in thee, in tears before thy face, calling to thee and beseeching thee. Oh goodness, I got lost. I'm in the middle of a different prayer. Oh wow, let's start again. O thou kind Lord, praise be unto thee that thou hast shown us the highway of guidance. Open the doors of the kingdom and manifested thyself through the Sun of reality. To the blind thou hast given sight. To the deaf thou hast granted hearing. Thou hast resuscitated the dead. Thou hast enriched the poor. Thou hast shown the way to those who have gone astray. Thou hast led those with parched lips to the fountain of guidance. Thou hast suffered the thirsty fish to reach the ocean of reality. And thou hast invited the wandering birds to the rose garden of grace. O thou Almighty, we are thy servants and thy poor ones. We are remote and yearn for thy presence. Our thirst for the water of thy fountain are ill, longing for thy healing. We are walking in thy path and have no aim or hope save the diffusion of thy fragrance, so that all souls may raise the cry of, O God, guide us to the straight path. May their eyes be open to behold the light. May they be freed from the darkness of ignorance. May they gather around the lamp of thy guidance. May every portionless one receive a share, and may the deprived become the confidants of thy mysteries. O Almighty, look upon us with a glance of mercifulness. Grant us heavenly confirmation. Bestow upon us the breath of the Holy Spirit, so that we may be assisted in thy service, and like unto brilliant stars shine in these regions with the light of thy guidance. Verily thou art the powerful, the mighty, the wise, and the seeing. Glory be unto thee, O God. How can I make mention of thee while thou art sanctified from the praise of all mankind? Magnified be thy name, O God. Thou art the King, the eternal truth. Thou knowest what is in the heavens and on the earth, and unto thee must all return. Thou hast sent down thy divinely ordained revelation according to a clear measure. Praised art thou, O Lord. At thy behest thou dost render victorious whomsoever thou willest, through the hosts of heaven and earth, and whatsoever existeth between them. Thou art the sovereign, the eternal truth, the Lord of invincible might. Glorified art thou, O Lord. Thou forgivest at all times the sins of such among thy servants as implore thy pardon. Wash away my sins and the sins of those who seek thy forgiveness at dawn, who pray to thee in the daytime and in the night season, who yearn after naught save God, who offer up whatsoever God hath graciously bestowed upon them, who celebrate thy praise at morn and eventide, and who are not remiss in their duties. Another one of my friends passed away yesterday. Boy, I'll tell you, they're dropping like flies. Well, they're not really dropping. They're dropping the body, but they're ascending. His name was Scott Porter, and he was in a car accident as a young man in his early 20s, and he lost the use of his lower body, and then he developed MS, and he spent many years in a hospital bed, but he was a great guy. He had a great sense of humor. He was intelligent. He bore his trials with patience. And I'd like to say a prayer for him. He is God. Exalted is he, the Lord of loving kindness and bounty. Glory be unto thee, thou, O my God, the Lord omnipotent. I testify to thine omnipotence and thy might, thy sovereignty and thy loving kindness, thy grace and thy power, the oneness of thy being and the unity of thine essence, thy sanctity and exaltation above the world of being and all that is therein. O my God, thou seest me detached from all save thee, holding fast unto thee, and turning unto the ocean of thy bounty, to the heaven of thy favor, to the day star of thy grace. Lord, I bear witness that in thy servant thou hast reposed thy trust, and that is the Spirit wherewith thou hast given life to the world. I ask of thee by the splendor of the orb of thy revelation, mercifully to accept from him that which he hath achieved in thy days. Grant then that he may be invested with the glory of thy good pleasure and adorned with thine acceptance. O my Lord, I myself and all created things bear witness unto thy might, and I pray thee not to turn away from thyself this Spirit that hath ascended unto thee, unto thy heavenly place, thine exalted paradise, and thy retreats of nearness, O thou who art the Lord of all men. Grant then, O my God, that thy servant may consort with thy chosen ones, thy saints and thy messengers, in heavenly places that the pen cannot tell, nor the tongue recount. O my Lord, the poor one hath verily hastened unto the kingdom of thy wealth, the stranger unto his home within thy precincts. He that is sore athirst to the heavenly river of thy bounty. Deprive him not, O Lord, from his share of the banquet of thy grace, and from the favor of thy bounty. Thou art in truth the Almighty, the gracious, the all-bountiful. O my God, thy trust hath been returned unto thee. It behoveth thy grace and thy bounty, that have compassed thy dominions on earth and in heaven, to vouchsafe unto thy newly welcomed one thy gifts and thy bestowals, and the fruits of the tree of thy grace. Powerful art thou to do as thou willest. There is none other God but thee, the gracious, the most bountiful, the compassionate, the bestower, the pardoner, the precious, the all-knowing. I testify, O my Lord, that thou hast enjoined upon men to honor their guest, and he that hath ascended unto thee hath verily reached thee, and attained thy presence. Deal with him then according to thy grace and bounty. By thy glory I know of a certainty that thou wilt not withhold thyself from that which thou hast commanded thy servants, nor wilt thou deprive him that hath clung to the cord of thy bounty, and hath ascended to the dayspring of thy wealth. There is none other God but thee, the one, the single, the powerful, the omniscient, the bountiful. So that was First Scott. think what we're going to do now is we're going to read from this book called the Kitáb-Í-Iqán, or the Book of Certitude. And let's see what Baha'u'lláh has to say here. We're on page 64. He says, "Know verily that knowledge is of two kinds, divine and satanic." Well, let's find out what he means by satanic, because I think it's very different from maybe what we're used to hearing from some of the more fundamentalist faiths. "The one welleth out from the fountain of divine inspiration. The other is but a reflection of vain and obscure thoughts. The source of the former is God himself. The motive force of the latter, the whisperings of selfish desire." Okay, so he's telling us what he means by satanic. Selfishness. "The one, divine knowledge, is guided by the principle, fear ye God, God will teach you. The other is but a confirmation of the truth, knowledge is the most grievous veil between man and his creator." Okay, let's look at that. Okay, he says, divine knowledge is guided by the principle, fear ye God, God will teach you. So, this is pretty controversial, actually, this whole idea of the fear of God, because, we know, and we really resonate with the idea that God is merciful and loving and compassionate. And sometimes it's hard for us to understand, what does it mean to fear God? I mean, if God is merciful and loving and compassionate, why should we fear him? And by the way, just so you know, I may use the male pronoun, but it doesn't mean that I think that God is a man. It's just a convention of speech, so I just want to clarify that. Well, I can tell you what it means to me, and that is, I've gone both ways in my life. I've gone toward God, and I've gone away from God. I've gone toward goodness and purity and humility, and I've gone toward my selfish part of myself. And things don't go well when I turn away from the laws and teachings of God as I understand them through Baha'u'llah's teachings. Things don't go well at all, and I suffer terribly. And so I'm afraid. I'm afraid to, it's not so much that I'm afraid to make a mistake, but I'm afraid of my own weakness. I'm afraid of making a mistake that I know better than to make, because the price is too high. And for me, that's what it means to fear God, to realize that the price that we pay for ignoring our own better instincts is too high, and we don't want to have to pay it. And to me, that's what it means. Now, what's the next part here that he says? The other, in other words, satanic knowledge, is but a confirmation of the truth. Knowledge is the most grievous veil between man and his creator. So I think that's a quote from Baha'u'lláh. Knowledge is the most grievous veil between man and his creator. Now that doesn't mean that we Baha'is don't honor knowledge. We do. But I think what Baha'u'lláh is saying is that it's a fine line, because the more knowledge a person has, and in some ways you could say this about any attribute, like the more beauty a person has, the more power a person has. These things may be good within themselves, but they can become a source of arrogance and block us from the humility that we need in order to recognize and be obedient to the teachings of God. The former, that is, divine knowledge, bringeth forth the fruit of patience, of longing desire, of true understanding, whilst the latter, satanic knowledge, or selfishness, can yield naught but arrogance, vainglory, and conceit. So now he's getting right down to the nitty-gritty. From the sayings of those masters of holy utterance who have expounded the meaning of true knowledge, the odor of these dark teachings, which have obscured the world, can in no wise be detected. Okay, so he's comparing the divine messengers such as Buddha, Christ, Muhammad, Moses, Bahá'u'lláh, White Buffalo Calf Woman, Quetzalcoatl, and so forth. He's saying that the teachings of these messengers are pure light, and that's not the same as every person who promotes themselves as a spiritual teacher. That there's a big difference between these divine messengers and the proliferation of ideas in the world, many of which are false, and people cling to them. And because they cling to them, they end up doing and saying things that obscure real truth. So, and that whole, that they gain followers, and then the followers are corrupted by these leaders, and they can't recognize the light of truth when it shines. So I guess you'll have to think about where you see that in life. I mean, I can think of lots of examples, but I think each one of us has to reflect. The tree of such teachings can yield no result except iniquity and rebellion, and beareth no fruit but hatred and envy. Wow. Okay, I gotta say, okay, so I'm not really sure what he's talking about here. I'm not sure what he means by these dark teachings. So this was written in the 1800s too, in a Persian culture, and I'm not really sure. How well hath it been said, cling unto the robe of the desire of thy heart, and put thou away all shame. Bid the worldly wise be gone, however great their name. I don't feel like I can talk. I feel what he's saying, but so if anybody has any insight into this, please type it in so we can share it. Anyway, let's go on. The heart must needs therefore be cleansed from the idle sayings of men, so that it may discover the hidden meaning of divine inspiration and become the treasury of the mysteries of divine knowledge. Thus hath it been said, he that treadeth the snow-white path and followeth in the footsteps of the crimson pillar shall never attain unto his abode, unless his hands are empty of those worldly things cherished by men. And we're going to talk about what that means. This is the prime requisite of whosoever treadeth this path. Ponder thereon, that with eyes unveiled thou mayest perceive the truth of these words. So he's saying here, if we want to understand truth, then we have to let go. We have to let go of our own opinions. We have to let go of what other people think. We have to go to God with a completely pure heart and ask to be shown in humility. And then when he says, what I just read, he that treadeth the snow-white path and followeth in the footsteps of the crimson pillar. So the crimson pillar would be, that's a reference to the manifestations of God, and specifically to Bahá'u'lláh, because of their suffering. Every one of the divine messengers of God suffered intolerable injustices and cruelties. And so crimson is like the color of blood, the blood that has been spilled in the path of God by the messengers themselves and by their followers. And it says, if you want to attain the heights of spirituality, and if you want to follow the essence of truthfulness, you have to let go of your worldly desires. And, it's a process, but you have to engage in the process of detaching yourselves from the things that people think are so great, whether it's money or status or fame. And it doesn't mean that you can't have those things. It means that you have to be detached from them. That you have to let them pass through and use them when they come to you in order to promote what's good in this world, which is the cause of God. This is the prime requisite of whosoever treadeth this path. Ponder thereon, that with eyes unveiled thou mayest perceive the truth of these words. Okay, great. So that concludes our study for tonight. If you have any questions or comments, or you have anything to add, or you can explain stuff that I wasn't able to explain, or you have another thought on it, I would love for you to comment. And I am so grateful and touched that you tuned in. And I really hope to see you again. And I hope that you'll say hi. And I hope sometime you might offer some words of wisdom or anything. Or just come and show up. So I wish you peace. Bahá'u'lláh.